Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World episode 174. I'm your host John Jordan. Don't forget to check out my daily email about blockchain gaming. You can find that at gamestx.substack.com. In today's episode, I'm talking to Wei Xei, who is the COO at ArenaX Labs. So ArenaX Labs is best known for its forthcoming game, AI Arena. So obviously we talk quite a bit about that game, but generally we sort of kick off talking more about AI itself. So what does ArenaX do? It's not doing genAI, it's actually doing a highly optimized, lightweight form of machine learning with humans in the loop. So we go into a bit of detail about what that actually means. And we talk about AI Arena as a product. The token, the NRN token, has just gone live. So we talk about what's the point of having a token in that context. And also we talk about ArenaX Labs' other part of their business. So it has a B2C, a consumer aspect of its business, which is the game, and it also has a B2B, a business to business part of its operations, and that is letting other developers use its AI platform. So we talk about how those two things sort of contrast, and also how the token underpins how they will operate in future. So I hope you enjoy that podcast. Don't forget, every week we're putting out new episodes, so don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time. Hello and welcome to the show. Very pleased that today I have Wei from AI Arena, or the company is ArenaX Labs. The game we'll be talking about today is AI Arena. So how's it going, Wei?
Doing well. Nice to meet you, John, and looking forward to this conversation.
Cool, good. So we usually start off finding out a bit of background about the interviewee. So if you can give us a bit of a product history about how you've ended up running a blockchain AI gaming company, that would be cool.
Sounds great. I'm still trying to figure out how I ended up here, so maybe let's take it back. But my name is Wei. I'm co-founder, COO of ArenaX Labs, which is the AI tech company that's developing a suite of AI products. One of which is AI Arena, which is a game title that we're developing in Web3. It's going to be launched on Arbitrum. Prior to co-founding this company, I spent over a decade in traditional finance. Right before switching over to ArenaX, I was a director of a large liquid strategies portfolio for a Canadian pension fund. And then it was during that time I had the mandate to look into some interesting areas of investment opportunities, which included both artificial intelligence and blockchain and crypto. That's where I met the other co-founder, Brandon. He's CEO, CTO. He's the brains behind the operation. I'm more of the the business guy. And but we've been working together since 2016. And really the precursor to ArenaX is the fact that we were basically working together and building trading algorithms that were powered by machine learning models, okay, and applying it to financial markets. With some pretty good success while we were at the fund that we were at before. And then come 2019, we started to look into NFTs as a technological primitive and quickly realized that NFTs allow you to tokenize any type of digital intellectual property, which was super fascinating to us. So while everyone else was still looking at kind of like JPEGs as like the application, we were thinking about how do you tokenize AI and what interesting sorts of business models that you can spin up on top of that. So that was the starting point to the journey. We, I think, launched the business in 2021, raised 2 rounds of financing since then. Fortunate enough to have some of the prominent VCs in the space back us. But fast forward to where we are today, we do think of ourselves first and foremost as a AI tech company at ArenaX. And really, we have 2 platforms. One is called Arc. Arc is an AI gaming SDK. And we used Arc to build AI Arena. So AI Arena is kind of like a showcase for what the tech is able to do. But now we're increasingly focused on distributing Arc to third-party studios and helping them build fascinating AI-based gaming experiences, but also helping them solve some very critical kind of business problems when it comes to like developing games and scaling games. So that's one side of the business. There's another side called SAI. SAI. SAI is a machine learning competition platform. It's slightly more targeted towards the Web2 AI space. And the concept there is we are building a platform to push forward the pursuit of artificial general intelligence. And our approach there is to build a platform with interesting problems that are framed as games, and using that platform to attract some of the best and brightest minds around the world to come in and compete to solve those problems. But what they're really doing is building AI models to play these games. So it takes inspiration from some of the other machine learning competition platforms out there, but I think the key differentiation here is it's more interesting, it's more social, it's more dynamic from a user experience perspective, because instead of just solving kind of like a mathematically based problem, you're actually showcasing and you're able to demonstrate to a community how well your model performs by virtue of it performing in a video game. So we have leaderboards, and you actually can click through and see every single model in terms of their performance through the game is actually really, really cool. So that's where we are today. I'm happy to dig into like any pocket of the broader platform that we're building.
Yeah, cool. So lots of stuff going on. I guess sort of one of my questions will be, you know, as an absolute generalist, the term AI is being, you know, is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in conversations at the moment, and I sort of wonder, you know, where do you sit in that sort of AI spectrum? We have obviously all the genAI stuff at the moment. You were mentioning machine learning type stuff. You know, if you're at core, you're an AI company. Where do you think, sort of, you know, to some degree, you're competing with AI companies who are all trying to build these various models and sort of platforms and stuff. So, at a fundamental level, where do you think that sort of ArenaX sort of sits in that broader spectrum of just sort of AI companies?
For sure. That's a great question. I'm trying to distill it into a couple of different ways of like approaching it. So on one hand, it's important to call out that ArenaX and the tech that we've built is not predicated on the focal areas of what AI is currently popular in, which are things like generative models, large language models, these types of foundational models. What we've done is focused more on a domain that's kind of a derivative off of reinforcement learning. And if you look at the core loop of the AI Arena game, is actually it's an abstraction of the process called imitation learning, which is really reinforcement learning with an expert agent, aka the human, in the loop to accelerate the ability for an AI model to learn how to do a task. So in kind of creating this type of process, what we had to do is actually create new tech, a new set of infrastructure to power this type of experience. The key difference here is, at its core, ArenaX has created a machine learning model that's extremely lightweight, and it's very efficient in terms of its ability to not only continuously update and incorporate new information that the human is steering into it. It saves on computational costs, and it saves on kind of data storage costs, because what we figured out is a mechanism to allow the model to retain memory of what it's learned in the past without having to store the entire kind of cross-section of data to continue to update this model in terms of steering its behavior to evolve in the future. And this is a very, very important distinction, because it allows any company or any project that's using this technology to scale very efficiently. One of the biggest problems with AI right now is, especially if you're using or leveraging a foundational model built by another company, is the costs are extreme. And the costs inflate sometimes exponentially the more users that you have. This is an issue that I think many AI projects haven't really thought through yet. And we certainly see that as a symptom in the gaming space. And so I think that's one key area of differentiation, is like the problems that we're trying to solve is different. The model that we develop is proprietary, is hyper efficient when it comes to scaling. And it's usable and it's applicable in any type of context where you need an AI model to continuously learn new information and adapt to different types of context, environments, etc. So that's super exciting. That's the key differentiation. We've been at it since 2020. So it's been 3.5. Sorry, we raised our first round of financing in 2021. Sorry, I'm getting all the years mixed up right now. We started the ideation started in 2020. We raised in 2021. Yeah. So as a company, we've been here since 2021, and in that time, I think, obviously AI as a narrative has exploded. And again, I think the part that has really taken off is large language models and generative models. And that's still not what we're focused on, but we think we built some really interesting and killer tech that now we're getting that inbound interest from clients that appreciate what it is that we're able to do, because these are the exact problems that they're confronting on a day-to-day.
Yeah, excellent. No, very, very helpful answer there, because I think, for those who are sort of outside the space, AI has become. I mean, AI was always sort of this somewhat magical black box that would sort of solve problems, and now it's sort of creating, alien intelligence that's going to enslave us all. Which, I guess some people think it may do, but that's obviously what you're doing. And I guess the other interesting thing, as you point out, is you read some of these papers, they go, well, in certain amount of years we'll get to sort of ChatGPT sort of 7 scale, and we only need 20% of the US energy capacity to do that. And you go,
yeah, exactly.
And that's probably fine if you're open AI. That's probably fine. You can probably raise $1 trillion to do that. But for most other companies, that's as you say, point out the cost of running the AI is a massive thing, and then the cost of plugging people into it to use it is another whole mess. So okay, so your smarts are you're using these sort of imitation machine learning systems, and you can do it really scalably, really lightweight, and you have a human sort of in the loop to speed all that sort of stuff up. So you have a much more efficient system than could be done otherwise. So that sort of makes sense at that very high level. I guess then that is not a sort of trivial engineering problem. I'm sure on a sort of on a fundamental level, and on a building it out as a platform for other people to use sort of level. So that's clever. So then why do you end up, and this may be your sort of the way you're positioning the tech rather than how you have to do it, doing games and blockchain? Yeah. So you sort of got AI, which as much as I can tell, we believe you've solved that, and now you sort of added in blockchain, which is sort of very exciting. We all sort of like the idea of decentralization and all that sort of stuff. And then gaming, which obviously sort of gives you scale, but we've not. We could argue that blockchain and gaming, we can sort of think how that might be solved at some point in the future, but no one's really done it yet. And now you've added AI in that as well, so you've got quite a lot of moving parts there. so
I totally get what you're saying. The short answer is we're a glutton for punishment. Really, that's the answer. But the long answer is so I think there's a few things that actually make blockchain very interesting in the context of gaming, particularly in the type of game that we built with AI Arena. So let me talk about AI Arena slightly first. AI Arena is kind of like a crossover between Super Smash Bros. And Pokemon. The game itself is a fighting game. However, the objective is for a human player to train an AI to fight. And then it's your AI versus my AI. So we train our own AIs, and our AIs enter the battle arena, and they duke it out to see who's better. So the training is the focal point of the game, which is where this Pokemon analogy comes in. However, traditional training games like Pokemon, very limited in terms of the outcomes that you can achieve. And in fact, most times it's static and it's predetermined. Here's X different moves. Some are attack, some are defense based, and you just, pick and choose which one in different settings. With our training system, through this imitation learning curve, it's almost like it's the most expansive search area that you can possibly imagine in terms of the outcome that you can achieve with these characters. So in some ways, the process of training an AI is almost like teaching a child how to play a sport in real life. There's a massive field of different ways that you can do this. The consequence of this is it's a great game for competitive players. Because it's such a vastness of research, like search space for optimal strategies, competitive players love this game. And we intended for it to be ultra competitive. And this is where kind of blockchain comes into play, because with blockchain, it's not just the competition, it's the fact that how do you distribute value to competitors in a scalable way? That's the central problem that we think blockchain solves very elegantly alongside the primitives of NFTs and tokens. As you can imagine, if you try to do like any type of competition and use traditional financial services rails, you couldn't do it, right? There's too much friction in the traditional system to actually administer the rewards out of a competition efficiently. Thereby, it's not possible. On blockchain, is actually instantaneous and it's very easy. So what we're able to do is we're able to create a competitive context that's globally scalable from day one, which is fascinating, exciting. It adds to the interest and the intrigue of the competitive content that we're trying to build. The second step on top of that is we have a thesis that you are able to bootstrap interesting competitive esports-like systems through a grassroots effort. And tokens as incentive mechanisms help you achieve that outcome. So whereas I think traditionally a lot of people think about, okay, we have to partner with the biggest esports franchises to bring them over. Our thesis is, yes, we're still just having conversations with a lot of these esports teams. But our sense and our kind of bet is that we can grow these talented people from scratch and bootstrap fandom at its base as well, using Web3 technology in terms of blockchain, as well as Web3 incentives such as tokens and NFTs. So that's kind of really the thesis behind why AI Arena needs to be on blockchain. And we're starting to implement on that kind of playbook. We've probably are X percentage through that playbook, but there's more to come in terms of executing there. But that really answers the question of why games, and then why games on Web3 over on top of AI. Like, this is just, it's funny because like initially in the early days when we're pitching people, VCs, etc., it's like, I think one of the first answers that we got is like, well, you guys have conveniently plugged in all of the biggest buzzwords into one thing, and it's just like a word salad of buzzwords. And I think as you start to peel back the onion about what we're building, you'll start to realize that, hey, hold on a minute, actually all this stuff actually does make sense. And we're not here to obfuscate complexity as a way to sell you something. We're actually here to demonstrate that with things like AI, Web3, you can radically reimagine how things are done. So what was previously impossible from a business model perspective is possible. And what we're trying to do is being on that vanguard of pushing the envelope of, hey, let's just try crazy stuff. Like this stuff is crazy. Let's just try it, because we have a thesis and it's rooted in logical reasoning. It's not like out to lunch. It doesn't mean that it's easy to implement, but I think, when you're afforded the opportunity to really try something special, you go for it. So that's kind of where that's like the underlying philosophy that we have as a project.
Yeah. So in terms of sort of AI Arena, that is correct me if I'm wrong, but I see that as that's sort of an application of your AI. That's people are sort of building specific systems using AI to build systems in that sort of game world, and I guess you may make possibly you could make other games, or other people could make other games using those primitives, but that's not really that's not advancing the sort of the core AI machine learning stuff you're doing. That's just a sort of application of it. So is that correct, or is there other stuff that can go on?
I think on the surface you're correct to describe it that way. Yeah. But let me take it a level deeper. And this is why it start. And you know what? I actually love the way that you're asking all these questions. This is leading to, going to the next depth of what we're trying to do. So, as I mentioned, there's two platforms. There's Arc and AI Arena as a showcase on Arc, and then there's Psy. When you look at these two platforms, Arc is being applied to gaming, and Psy is being applied to a more sophisticated audience. Let's call them ML engineers or researchers. Okay. So what is one of the advantages of games? Games are effectively a visual and interactive abstraction of a problem statement, right? That's what it is. It could be very elaborate and complex, but at its core, you're trying to solve a problem and you're trying to, progress to get better at solving that problem. So whilst Arc is a infrastructure, AI Arena as a game at its core is actually the abstraction of the machine learning research process wrapped up in a game form. Mm-hmm. So as you play this game, really what you're doing is you're pursuing the same process that an ML engineer or researcher does on a day-to-day. You're interacting it in a game interface, they're doing it in a code-like context, right? So to your question of, okay, so does this really advance AI? Does it create impact for the world? It does, because what our intentions were, can we use a game to help onboard people into a domain that seems really complex and help them cross that chasm in a more efficient way so that they can come in completely uninitiated, and then by a certain point, they have a base layer intuition in terms of what AI is, how it works, how you can improve it, what are the problems that you're trying to solve. All of that has been wrapped up in AI Arena as a game. So from a more business context, one of our distribution strategies is academia, right? Schools, colleges, and integrating this as a teaching tool into curriculums. And we have, we're going to do some of these activations later in the year, but we've had conversations with professors and teachers when they say, yeah, I'd love to use this game as a case study or an end of the term project for my course that I'm teaching on Intro to AI or Intro to Computer Science with a particular chapter around AI and, learning systems. So to that point, it's, we think AI Arena as a game is a onboarding portal, right? It's not what we're not saying is this is not like Coursera. This is not, if you play AI Arena, you're going to become a machine learning engineer. What this is saying is, as you're playing AI Arena, you're going to start to intuitively understand something so that maybe 1%, 2%, 5% of the people start to explore AI in a more integrated and holistic way. And then those people, what we offer is a conduit for them to go to the other side, which is Sci. Mm-hmm. Right? So now Sci, as a starting point would target just, trained professionals or people who have been studying and adopting applied AI or machine learning. But over time, we're starting to build this bridge. If more people we can onboard through AI Arena and game-like experiences, we can pass them through that kind of chasm and then have them join something more sophisticated. And this is so when we talk about like what do we stand for as a company, the vision is and people say this all the time, we're democratizing AI. We do feel like we are in the midst of our attempt of democratizing it in an actual actionable and practical way. And really is through the lens of like skill upgrading, using very novel apparatuses like gaming, and then inspiring people to investigate and spend more time in the space. And then the last point I want to make, like when you think about Sci from a business context, okay, great, you can crowdsource talent, so what? The so what is there is a infinite list of companies on the other side that are desperate for AI talent. So desperate that they're willing to pay 7-figure pay packages for these people, right? And there needs to be more avenues for them to discover raw talent outside of traditional avenues like specific, PhD programs or master programs. And Sci creates a way whereby it's transparent in terms of its way in assessing skill set. It's very meritocratic. You can't obfuscate the fact that your model sucked at this problem, because it did, right? Yeah. Where you can do that in, dressing up a resume. You can't do that in a context where the best model wins. So in that case, we are actually funneling more talent into the system, passing them through to this platform where the end consumer, being these companies, can actually have novel avenues of accessing that talent.
Definitely makes sense. And I guess in that context, the thing that's very easy to get wrong from the outside is not the fact that anyone who plays AI Arena is going to be trained to go off and have a career as an AI person, but if you're in the top 100 of this leaderboard with 100,000 people playing it, then a good proportion of those are clearly showing some sort of talent, and then, maybe, I don't know, even 10% of those will then go through, and maybe some of those wouldn't have ever thought that they had talent in that field, so yes. It's a sort of filtering process.
For sure, and we've already seen that in our community. Some of our players on the game side are now our early testers on the side. Okay. And, historically, some of them don't even have any programming background.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's now enough of an interest that they want to cross over. And I think that's the part about games as an apparatus that's really powerful, is like if you hit the right loop, you create that motivation as a renewable resource, right? Because you're now wanting to progress. It's like you get to escape velocity faster, right? And that's one of the problems in trying to learn and adopt a skill in any domain. Yeah. So, yeah.
And definitely competition as a human feedback mechanism is very powerful, at least for some people. So
yeah.
people who maybe sort of, if they were handed some machine learning coding thing, and even if they intellectually could do it, they go and watch Netflix instead. Whereas if I've got to get to the top 10 of the leaderboard, I'm going to crush this guy, then
yeah.
Cool. And I guess tie it all together, because one of my other questions was when you were talking about why you wanted blockchain and it was a rewards platform. Well, obviously there's loads of cryptos out there, there's loads of gaming cryptos out there, there's even a few esport gaming cryptos out there that you could have presumably plugged into, but obviously you have a deeper part of the economy is the token as well. So the token's just launched, I think, maybe last week, I think.
Correct.
So tell us a bit about the token and how the token sort of fits into this sort of vision as well.
For sure. So the token is the ticker is NRN. It's called Neuron. It's on the Arbitrum blockchain. And the token itself is really kind of the central utility for this AI ecosystem that we're building around it. And the key kind of primitives that create this utility for NRN is our Arc tech platform and AI Arena as like the initial showcase. And really, the utility of the NRN token scales as this ecosystem grows. So the starting point is AI Arena is a game. We have a captive player audience. The token is used as an in-game currency, whereby it's simultaneously used as a skill-based staking mechanism as well as a spending mechanism. So those are the two immediate utilities for the token. And then the next concentric circle out of there is NRN tokens can actually be used by, we call them fans, but you can just think about them as like all NRN holders can actually get into the action of the competition by supporting their favorite players. There's a integration that we're in the midst of announcing with a project called Lore. And what that allows us to do is basically kind of it's like a guild management system that's out of the box, predicated on a multi-sig type of infrastructure that allows the integration of players, owners, and fans to all play together, scaling resources for the competition. And as you can imagine, like because AI Arena is so competitive, I think the best traditional analog in describing our vision for AI Arena is like Formula One, right? It's super complex, extremely competitive at a high level, potentially high cost barriers to entry, but it's incredibly captivating because the charm of all of it is how the heck do these people do that? Both on the engineering side and also the practical racing side of things, right? That's the intrigue. So now, F1, big money business, massive capital investment up front, right? And through sponsorships and, TV rights and all of those different types of monetization avenues, the business model makes sense. AI Arena is kind of a microcosm of that and is scaling from the ground up, but this kind of guild management tooling allows us to scale the base of support for a particular player and a model, which is going to be really exciting, right? So now, like, you don't need to be the best player to be in the action. You can make contributions in different ways, whether it's promoting, marketing, contributing your own resources so your team has a better chance of, winning a bigger part of the prize pool. That's fantastic. So that's the second concentric circle of the utility of NRN. The third concentric circle is as we onboard more games through the Arc infrastructure, the idea is like some of these conversations are these games potentially will use NRN as their in-game utility token. In addition, because they are using our models, there's a cost of compute. Now, using our models is a lot more cost efficient, but there's still cost. You still have to expend costs on compute and data and all of that. But we can insert kind of NRN into the flow of that loop and create further utility for NRN. It becomes almost kind of, in some, like if we go down the path, it could become more like a gas-like utility token, where it's like a metering mechanism for how much compute you're using or your ecosystem is using when you're retraining your models. But there's other variations that we can design economic models that effectively creates a similar type of effect, but it's like the value flow is slightly different. But ultimately, the idea is we want NRN to be the focal point of kind of the AI-based innovation in gaming, right? And if you look at the pipeline of clients that we're already building on the Arc side, it's not just Web3 games.
Okay.
There's traditional studios, and some of these are big brands that are starting to study what we have done, and there's appetite in terms of how this can integrate into historical titles that they've already launched or things that are in their pipeline. Like, these are the types of conversations that we're having. So the idea is, in my mind, it's almost like this. AI Arena, I think the potential criticism that people can have on AI Arena is like super fascinating, super cool, but it's very niche, right? But people will look at it as like, man, that's cool. It's cool and it's new and it's fresh. And you can say anything else about it, but you can't refute that. It's just something different. All right. So then let's take that concept and that kind of energy and apply it in other contexts. And that's where we almost envision NRN to be, is at the heart of like this creative energy in gaming where it's like, let's just try dope shit. You know what I mean? Like, if I think gaming is going through that phase where the entire industry is struggling a bit, especially in the Web2 space. And I think we don't want to be in a situation, being a small sub-community of broader gaming Web3, where we're supposed to be on the vanguard. We're supposed to be pushing the envelope. And yet a lot of times what we see is just people copy paste models and then say, oh, instead of doing it in a centralized database, we do it in a decentralized database and it's better. And it's like, no, it's not. Right? So we wouldn't mind if NRN becomes this hub where it's like, it's just like an innovation hub of people trying dope shit in gaming. And like, yeah, a lot of it could fail. So what? Isn't that what we're here to do? And I think that's really the brand behind the NRN token, and AI Arena is the starting point, but it's certainly not where we're going to end up. It's really using this kind of energy, this like passion, this vision that we have for the future and why game plays such a central part in all of that. And attracting that energy, right? So I think if we can achieve that outcome, it doesn't matter what the price does necessarily, although I shouldn't say that because then our holders are going to be like, of course it matters. But I think underlying all of that, the fundamentals is like, this is what we stand for. This is like, if we're real about pushing things and trying to create something new that, maybe out of 10 different attempts, 2 of them actually take off, that's successful. That's great. And yeah, that's really what we're trying to build. And NRN's gonna be at the core of that. So if there's anyone out there that shares the same ambition, come talk to us. Love to hear what you're doing and how we can help. Because that's what Arc is designed to do.
Cool. So it's a really good overview of what you guys are doing, and for all the listeners who are now enthused and want to get onto it, what should they be doing now? What should they be looking out for the rest of 2024?
Yeah, for sure. I think to keep track of what we're up to, follow us on Twitter. AI Arena _ is the main account. Most announcements are going to go through that channel. Discord, if you just go on Twitter, you can find our Discord link, or if you go on aiarena.com, you'll find all of our social links as well. Join the community. There's different activities. There's different, we have a point system. It's more like a loyalty program that as you participate more in the ecosystem, you're able to earn rewards and NRN later on. And then, once we're targeting the launch of the game on mainnet in probably the next month or so.
Okay.
And leading up into that is, this integration with lore and creating that kind of fandom experience. And we're going to do probably some promotions and things along the course of rolling that out to really showcase to the community how they can actually use all of these things, right? To prove out the thesis that we can bootstrap very interesting systems around this kind of compelling competition that is AI Arena. And then the rest of 2024 is, the singular focus of expanding the tech that we built with Arc and helping other games and studios create new experiences, solve some of their problems when it comes to integrating AI. And the more that we have these conversations in the market, the more we start to understand that, wow, our Arc actually does solve this problem. We didn't even know that was a problem, but it kind of does. So it's only because we're doing business development. So that's really exciting. And we hope that in the next month or so, you're starting to see the early edge of some of the clients that we're signing on. So you're going to start to see that pipeline because it's becoming public. And I think then as people put together the actual announcements with the concept, it's all going to start feeling very real. And that's when it's going to be really, really, really exciting. So we're certainly looking forward to the rest of 2024. I think we're in the midst of a very bad sentiment cycle around Web3 gaming. But I fundamentally believe that we're one of the projects that are going to, come out of it stronger than ever and with a really compelling and exciting narrative.
Good. Well, you're definitely not doing copy pasta like you were suggesting. Lots of other people are doing, and something I would agree with. So glad that you're experimenting. That's sort of the point of it, particularly in the AI space, but even in the general blockchain space. I think we don't really know what works, so we know what doesn't work. We've had plenty of examples of what doesn't work. So let's stop doing that. And let's try something new.
Yep. Exactly. That's how we feel.
Great. Thank you very much. That was really great. Thank you to Wei for his time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is a very fun conversation. So hopefully we get to do it again at some point in the future.
Absolutely. Good. And thanks to you guys for watching, listening to the podcast, wherever you are consuming it. Every week we are putting out new episodes with people who are hopefully doing the experimental cool stuff that's going to be very important over the next 6 to 12 months. So don't forget to subscribe. Come back next week and see what we got. And we will see you then. Bye-bye.